أنت لك والملك لا شريك لك
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين له الحمد الحسن وثناء الجميل وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له يقول الحق وهو يهدي سبيل وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Everybody, how you guys doing again? It's been a while to this Deen Love platform. We welcome all of you, our Deen lovers. And we hope and we pray that everyone is doing well and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is keeping us all steadfast and firm on the truth and this Deen. Today we have with us again our star of this platform, Allahumma barik, Sheikh Muhammad Soussi. How are you doing? كيف الحال?
والله الحمد لله رب العالمين. I'm doing very well. Excellent, mashallah ta'ala. It's been over 6 months.
Oh wow.
Huh?
It
Haven't
feels
been
like
in Minnesota
forever.
that much.
A lot of things have happened.
I'm still trying to remember how to do these things. So if you guys give me 10 minutes, I'll get into it. Inshallah.
And so one of the phenomena we've been seeing in the world is Islam has become to many people apparent, and it's been like one of the top topics of the world. Everybody's talking about it. We have celebrities that are embracing the Deen of Allah. People are coming into the Deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. And it's a beautiful scenery. But at the same time, the attacks on the Deen have also increased. And we have seen a mass level of deception become even more apparent and take place in our surroundings. And so one of the things we're going to talk about, the theme of this podcast is deception. Namely, one of the individuals that is coming and also the society is being prepared for the role that's going to take place before the hour. And so this is about Masih al-DAJJAL. And so the Sheikh, alhamdulillah, we're going to have a nice discussion today to explain who this individual, what this individual or what they are or what it is, and the influence that it will have on our society, and it's already having, because one of the signs I think is that people will stop talking about this topic. And so we want to bring this to the forefront because it's really relevant today. So inshallah, let's start with the first question for the Sheikh. And so his name, what's the proper way to say his name, and also the meaning of his name, inshallah.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to all of our beautiful viewers that we've missed, that have been talking to for a while. It's good to be back. Alhamdulillah. Ikhwani, a lot of times things are trending, and they're trending in a way that is negative. And they're trending in a way that are not pertaining to ilm, but they're pertaining to hearsay, desires, and so forth and so on. Like, for instance, in recent years, let's say in the past decade, when social media became more and more prominent, and every Tom, Jim, and Harry, I can use the word, can get on the internet.
Now,
which, when I was in business, it was called the bathroom wall of society. And what's on the bathroom wall of every truck stop? Anybody can write whatever they want. Everybody can hide behind a pseudo or whatever name, or they put a monkey as their profile picture, or so forth or so on. And there's audacious people out there that think that they have an opinion and should be heard. And everyone talks about different subjects and or negates different subjects based on their whims, desires, or they could be advocates for ruining the Deen, whether they know it knowingly or unknowingly.
That's true.
In some of the subjects that have been talked about, for instance, adab al-qabr. And I'm bringing this up so you can understand how easy it is for people to denounce the Dajjal, and if he is a system Or is he a real human being? Or is he a jinn or ins and so forth? And we're going to discuss this as we go. There's people that actually have a difference of opinion about adab al-qabr. Like I had an older gentleman come up to me, and I think Yusuf was present. And he's like, oh, there's nothing in the Quran that says adab al-qabr is true.
Just for the viewers, could you just translate what is
The torment of the grave. The torment in the grave. No. The torment in the grave is not true. And you can bring the ayah of Ali Fir'aun. If you look at this and you tell them there's a proof, oh, this means something else. But at the end of the day, ikhwan, even if the torment of the grave is not true, there's going to be a day of judgment. Khalas, akhi, you're gonna have fun in the qabr.
True.
You're gonna die and there's no adab. Alhamdulillah, you've passed this. All right, what are you gonna do on the day of judgment? We're gonna be accountable, right? So it's sometimes our desires lead us, but we don't even use our intellect. And these are people who are educated that say these things. One of the most dangerous things that all of you listen to me, I want you to be aware of, is the so-called da'is or people that call themselves mufti. Be very, very, very careful. A lot of it is cultural. In some cultures, if you go to Sunday school and you study night classes for a few hours and you learn how to read Arabic, and you're pretty sharp, you're called a mufti. After 2 years, you get a certificate. Mufti in Arabic is somebody who is the highest of scholars, meaning he can give a fatwa, an Islamic ruling based on years and years and years and years and years of studying, of being a alim. Like most of the scholars of this age, they are not able to be muftis. So when these kids, who are most of them born in non-Arabic speaking countries, they live in America or Britain or whatever it is, and if you can tell from their looks and their nice beautiful hair and everything else that they call themselves muftis, be aware. Okay? They are mushkilijis. They are people who do mashak. They're not muftis. All right? I just want to make that clear because a lot of times people, they like, this guy's a mufti. I said, oh yeah, I mean, did Sheikh bin Uthman rahimahullah call you for a fatwa because he needed your opinion? Do the alims today call you and get an opinion from you? That's who a mufti is. So it's so easy for people to talk and say that they're knowledgeable about that. So coming back to the fact that it's so easy to negate because we want to negate. It's so easy to say, oh, this is not in the Quran. And we say, this isn't the Quran. أَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. This is what the people of the book from before us have done. And what's very sad, ikhwani, is even the kuffar, they believe there's an antichrist. Even the kuffar believe there's an antichrist. That he is not an entity. He is not an ideology. Although these entities, ideologies, governments, Illuminati circles, and you can expand from there, they are all preparing us for the coming of the Dajjal. Because he is their savior, the Dajjal. He is their leader. He's the one they are waiting for to create more mischief on earth. Yes. But if you look at, for instance, Shawkani, he talks في التوضيح للشوكاني ذكر أكثر من 100 حديث. He talks about there's more than 100 authentic hadiths that talk about the Dajjal. Not one, two. Hadith mutawatira, meaning this mutawatir is one of the strongest ahadith. يرويه جمع عن جمع عن جمع.
Mass transmitted.
Mass transmitted from one mass to another, to another, to another. In most of the ahadith were brought by Muslim, rahimahullah. So it's not in At-Tirmidhi wa Nasa'i, and nothing's wrong with those ahadith, so nobody can say, yeah, there's ahadith sahih and those, absolutely. But we all know that Al-Bukhari and Muslim are one of the most authentic books after the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if not the most authentic books. So I want you to come in to our podcast with an open mind to learn, not to negate. Akhi, if you don't believe, just buy. Just go. Just leave us alone, akhi. Our podcast, as we always say, This is for Muslims who want to better themselves, who want to have knowledge. We're not here fighting with you. We're not here looking for those who have weird ideas and ideologies, although sometimes we point them out so people know. I never bring up people. I always bring up the thoughts, because those people could die and their thoughts are carried on by other people. And it's a never-ending problem that you're always looking for people to point the finger at. So the ideologies is what I like to discuss, the ideas. So the word Dajjal came from the word al-kadhab. يُدَجِّلُ عَلَى النَّاسِ, that he mixes things up and he lies to people. And then we have the hadith that he's called al-Masih ad-Dajjal. And then the Masih has two different understandings based on يعني أهل العلم. Al-Masih, that he has al-ayn عنده ممسوحة. He has an eye that is either blind or looks like it's blind, or it's very weak. In some narrations it said that he has both of the eyes, one the right and one the left. And anybody can go back to these ahadith about the Dajjal in English or in Arabic to look at their authenticity and to read them in detail, although I'll do my best to recite them, but for time's sake. طيب. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, عُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ فِتْنَةِ الْمَسِيحِ الدَّجَّالِ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, seek refuge from the Masih ad-Dajjal. And he's called ad-Dajjal or al-Masih ad-Dajjal. We don't just use the word al-Masih, because that's what Isa alayhi salam is called al-Masih, the Messiah. But in the case of the Dajjal, it's because of his eye is mamsuha. It's either blind or it looks like it has an ailment. In some narrations, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, عَيْنُهُ كَالزَّبِيبَ, it's like a raisin. So it doesn't have any light to it, and it's wrinkled and shrinked like you would see a blind person. And then they said one of his eyes look really bad and the other one is completely blind, because the Sahaba, they said there's two narrations to the Prophet ﷺ, al-yumna wal-yusra. He talks about his right eye or left eye. So to reconcile those ahadith, they said that it's actually both of the eyes. One of them is completely gone, it's wiped, and the other one looks diseased or sick. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, وَمَا رَبُّكُمْ بِأَعْوَرٍ. And to know that your Lord, that your لَيْسَ بِأَعْوَرٍ وَمَا بِأَعْوَرٍ, he is not blind, or he doesn't have a bad eye or an ailment. Allah, your Lord, doesn't have an ailment in his eye, or he is not blinded from one eye, and so forth. Because the Dajjal, he's going to come and he's going to claim that he is a Rabb.
Subhanallah.
Just like Pharaoh said, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى.
Yes.
So it's already been said. He's not going to say anything, but Allah is going to give him many powers, many fitnas, لِيَمِيزَ الْخَبِيثَ مِنَ الطَّيِّبِ.
Subhanallah.
To separate and differentiate those who believe from those who have an ailment or ailments in their hearts. So we said his name is ad-Dajjal. Dajjal means al-Kadhib or al-Kadhab, the liar, the intruder. Al-Masih comes from either because of his eyes wiped, masaha, or innahu yamsahu al-ard, that he will be entering in every nook and cranny and go to every town and show his presence. That means he will wipe the entire earth. These are one of the explanations. And in some of the ahadith, you might read that it's al-Masih, وهذا قول ضعيف. It's موجود المسيح الدجال من كلمة مسخ, is to have some deformity in his looks and so forth. But this word in particular is in narrations that are weaker. But هذا من باب الأمانة. So these are about his names. And I think I talked about the second one. Why is he called? Or is he named that?
Yeah, Al-Masih is something we know from the Quran that Isa alayhi salam will be called. He's Al-Masih.
Al-Masih.
Right? Isa ibn Maryam.
Yes, the anointed one.
Na'am.
The Messiah.
So what's the relation between him and Isa alayhi salam?
Yes.
If that's the case.
So, like I said, even the kuffar, they believe there's going to be a Messiah who's coming, who's going to save them.
Yep.
So he uses this name, and this name is used for those who are confused for the fitna. So he uses that, because he said he is Lord. What did the people say about the Messiah? They said he's Lord. He's the Son.
That's true.
I was debating with a Christian today for an hour about how we should all be wiped out because the Messiah is coming and we need to prepare. And I said, Akhi, okay, great. But why can't the Messiah show up and the land is full of Arabs? Why does it have to be full of everybody else but the Arabs? He's a Lord. Does he afraid of these people?
Yeah. SubhanAllah.
And then you can tell, like, they look at you like with a deer headlights because nobody ever questions them in their ideologies. They just hear it, they talk amongst each other, and they're so afraid to. I was surprised that this person said this. He said that if it was me, God said you just should wipe them all out so they don't come back. I'm like, Akhi, it's an ideology. It's not about wiping out people.
That's true.
You know, people have ideologies. You need to wipe out the ideology, not the people.
Yeah.
You know, so, subhanAllah.
So we were speaking about the relation between.
The relation. So he's used that al-Masih, but in the hadith, in the authentic hadith, it's mentioned al-Masih ad-Dajjal, meaning he's the false Messiah, the Antichrist. Even the kuffar, they call him the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And he will be killed by Isa alayhi salam as well. So all these are correlation, and they will come in that time as well. When everybody's expecting a Messiah to come, he will be the Messiah of the kuffar and the Dajjalun and the Mujrimun and so forth and so on.
Which also we forgot to mention that I believe the Jews are also waiting for a Messiah still.
Yeah, the Jews and the Christians are all waiting. Yeah. So the Jews are waiting for him.
Yeah, the Christians are waiting for a Messiah to return.
They're standing for Isa.
Right.
Yes.
But the Jews are saying we haven't received a Messiah yet. So
they are waiting for a Messiah, hoping there's going to be one from amongst them that came. So when I confronted the Christian person today, he said, "Oh yeah, they're waiting for Jesus." Ya kadhab, ya majrim.
No.
You know, and I said, they wanted to kill him. I think if he comes back this time, they'll try to kill him as well. They have their own Messiah they're waiting for.
Yeah.
And many of them are waiting for the Masih ad-Dajjal.
SubhanAllah.
Naam.
So now moving on to the proofs and the evidences, more deeper, let's focus on it, because there are individuals like you mentioned before, Asperius, or people that are just come out of nowhere. They have a YouTube channel, and they call themselves Mufti, and so they're able to implant within the hearts of people doubt about this reality mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah, as we mentioned, is mutawatir, right? And we're going to talk about the ramifications about disbelieving in this. But they say, like, for example, well, if this is a reality from the signs, why is it not mentioned, or the major signs? It's from the major signs. Why is it not mentioned in the Quran? And so this is one reason where they would reject and say, well, it doesn't seem like it's true, and it seems like it's something that is inherited from Christian communities of the past and their scriptures, and not from our traditions.
شوف إخواني, all of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were talking about the Dajjal and waiting for him. Even in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a person who was born and they thought he was the Dajjal because he took 12 months to come out, and when he came out, he had disfigurations and issues, and everybody thought he was the Dajjal. Radiallahu anhu. I believe he died as a Muslim. He became Muslim later on. Okay, but having this said, there are so many things that the Prophet ﷺ brought to us that are not in the Quran that we have to believe in. Okay, يعني when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, did he mention خروج الشمس من المغرب? Is it mentioned in the Quran?
No.
Yes or no? No, it's not. This is something all Muslims know, that if the sun comes out from the west, that خلاص ما ينفع لا تنفع نفس إيمانها إن لم تكن آمنت من قبل. There's not going to be any benefit for somebody who becomes a believer after the sun comes out from the west.
SubhanAllah.
Okay, this is a sign. The Prophet ﷺ explained to us about the day of judgment and what's going to happen in Jannah. Okay, how about Al-Isra wal-Ma'raj? I know this is in the Quran, but I'm talking about the details. So we have to understand, not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't mention something in detail in the Quran, that we negate it.
Yeah.
Okay, if you believe certain things about Islam, Why is it so hard to believe about the Dajjal? This is what I don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you want to fight it if there's authentic ahadith and there's ideologies, and Muslims throughout the past 1400 centuries have been warning people about the Dajjal.
Yeah.
That the Prophet ﷺ, he said, ما بعث نبي إلا أنذر أمته الأعور الكذاب. That the Prophet ﷺ, he said, there hasn't been a prophet that has come from before me and the prophets who have come from before me, that they have warned their people from the blind liar.
SubhanAllah.
And they call al-kadhab or al-dajjal is kind of the same word. The liar or the dajjal is somebody who is sneaky and conniving. Okay, same thing. So, and these are, like I said, هذا متفق عليه هذا في البخاري ومسلم.
SubhanAllah.
These are authentic hadiths, akhi. If you don't want the Dajjal to be, that's cool. خلاص روح توكل على الله. I mean, I don't know why is it a problem. Like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا وَقَعَ الْقَوْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ أَخْرَجْنَا لَهُمْ دَابَّةً مِنَ الْأَرْضِ تُكَلِّمُهُمْ أَنَّ النَّاسَ كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا لَا يُوقِنُونَ. This is talking to you who has a problem with saying this is not in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا وَقَعَ الْقَوْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ, meaning when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to send the end of time, or the end of time is near, and that Allah khalas has decided to reveal the end of time to them. وَقَعَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقَوْلُ وَوَقَعَ الْقَوْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ أَخْرَجْنَا لَهُمْ دَابَّةً, that we have sent out a what? A beast from the ground that speaks to them. So a beast speaking to people is accepted, but the Dajjal speaking to people is not accepted. Why did Allah say this? He said, إِنَّ النَّاسَ, that surely people, he didn't say believers, surely people, كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا لَا يُوقِنُونَ. These people that defy the norms and defy the teachings of Islam and the truth, they are the ones who have had trouble believing in our signs.
SubhanAllah.
Allah talks about this. Okay, so if a beast comes and it talks to you, is this harder, or somebody who comes and says, I am a Lord, and he does magic and he's dealing with shayateen, like a sorcerer and so forth? A lot of these signs that the Dajjal will have, a lot of the sorcerers throughout history have done many of these things, whether they are apparent to people or not, but Allah has given him this fitna to purify and to liyamiz al-khabitha min at-tayyib. Different ulama that might have said, oh, the Dajjal doesn't exist. Okay, you left all the scholars, you left all of the mashayikh, you left all of the ulama and the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And you're not happy with those, and you're looking for someone under a rock that said this is not true. He could be a great scholar, because you're going to come to me now and say, Fulan and Fulan, al-alim al-fulani, and I'm not mentioning any names, said this about it. Akhi, first of all, I want you to go back to this alim al-fulani with your good, strong Arabic. A lot of times translations do not do justice to how the ulama speak.
Yeah.
Okay? So I want, if you're not proficient in Arabic and you're reading this stuff in English, you shouldn't be given these so-called fatwas or ideas online. Stay away من المتشابه. منه آيات محكمات هن أم الكتاب وأخر متشابهات فأما الذين في قلوبهم زيغ فيتبعون ما تشابه منه ابتغاء الفتنة وابتغاء تأويله وما يعلم تأويله إلا الله والراسخون في العلم يقولون آمنا به كل من عند ربنا وما يذكر إلا أولو الألباب. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us there are ayahs that are revealed in the book, that they are sealed, meaning they are black and white, they are very apparent. Then there are ayat in here, there are verses in the Quran that necessitate knowledgeable people and scholars to interpret them, because they are open for interpretation. For those of the humans who have diseased hearts and they are looking for troubles or looking for loopholes, they take those things that are open for interpretation and they flip them around on their heads to find meanings that please them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Allah is the only one who knows the entire explanation and or translation of the ayahs, of these ayahs that are mutashabihat.
Yes.
Okay? And then he says that the scholars who have true knowledge, they say, آمَنَّ بِهِ كُلٌّ مِّنْ عِنْدِ رَبِّنَا. We believe in all of it. It all comes from Allah. Then he says, وَمَا يَذَّكَّرُ. In those who will remember, meaning understand this concept, are those who have sound minds. وَيَتَذَكَّرُ مَا يَتَذَكَّرُ إِلَّا أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. So, for instance, out of all the things that Muslims have going on for them and the troubles we are in and the disastrous state of this ummah that we're in, you have shuyukh, some shuyukh, so-called shuyukh, whatever you want to call them, okay? Talking about Ya'juj and Ma'juj, we don't see them on satellites, so they must not exist. If the Dajjal existed on some island, like the hadith said, we would see this island and we would know and we would have went and found them.
Yeah.
Akhi, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to reveal something, He will reveal it. Are you telling me that these satellites have seen everything in the world? There's nothing more to discover? How is it with all these satellites? Every day they discover something new. Why couldn't they discover them 20, 30 years ago? And they're using the same satellites.
Yeah.
So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, even the petroleum and gold that's under the ground, they have not found yet. Every year they find something new. It's when Allah wants to reveal certain things, we have to believe it wholeheartedly. Allah said, Ya'juj wa Ma'juj, that they're people, and the Prophet ﷺ explained it to us. Khalas, akhi.
That's it.
Why is it so hard for us to just say sama'na wa ata'na? The problem is most people went to school and they teach them in school, your opinion matters. I'm sorry, your opinion doesn't matter. You're nobody. I'm a nobody. Who am I? You know, I'm only giving you information that was brought forth by scholars who are mountains. I'm just a pebble at the bottom of the mountain that's trying to stick onto that mountain and think I belong. Wallahi, akhi, I'm being honest. What ilm do I have compared to the scholars? But when you read their books, they don't have these shukuk. They don't have these issues. It's, you know, a lot of times it's so easy to say sama'na wa ta'na. I hear and I obey.
Yeah.
We don't want to hear your opinion. Hush it. And if you're on there with your wife on your TikTok or whatever it is, you should hush it twice.
SubhanAllah.
Wallahi, akhi, if you're out there and men are commenting on how beautiful your wife is or how cute she is, and you guys are looking at this and it's okay, it's not okay. And when you tell people to man up and make money without utilizing your wife and children, because this is becoming an epitome, I just wanted to kind of slide this one in, just a little poke, just a little guy. They get upset, akhi. And when you call them the youth, they're like, I'm not a the youth. Take your wife off. Make money without your wife. Have her do something else. Yalla, Habib.
So this is, you brought up a good point, because despite satellites or any other conventional way of finding out what's there in the world, there's the ghaibiyat that we have to ultimately believe in. And so if we don't see angels, what does that mean? You know, so
same thing, akhi.
Right. So it's a ridiculous argument of satellites. But then you said something earlier that I think this illustrates, which is Allah is trying to expose people for who they are.
Absolutely,
and make it clear. And it will be clear to the people that have basira. Na'am. And they can see it and they'll know what to do when the time comes. Na'am.
Yes. So when people are saying, for instance, this nonsense or trying to bring up certain things, my fear, ikhwani, that Allah is exposing certain people that have diseases in the heart, that they're trying to look for something so extravagant to touch upon or to get the sensation going. And this is the clicks. And I always tell people, if you want to really, really do this for the sake of Allah, shut off the comments and don't get paid. And see how many you will do over and over again.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
Because most people live off of the clicks, you know?
There you go.
And now when you understand who is 63% of your audience, and you can go on Google and see who is 63% of most content on the internet, and you'll find out who those people are.
SubhanAllah.
They're not males. So when you see people who are catering and clapping to emotions, they know who their audience is and they're putting on a facade and a show, and they want to talk about something so juicy so they can get well known and get the clicks, akhi, because the ulama are not debating these things. People are just, the ulama are talking about, watch out that if the Dajjal comes, what to do.
SubhanAllah.
And this is the problem that people are not paying attention to is, why is this person talking about it when all the other scholars are not? And this is a non-controversial thing. It's just a sensation, meaning they're not talking about feminism and they're not talking about genderism and they're not talking about politics. They're talking about the Dajjal, akhi. Why aren't they talking about it? Because a lot of the da'is right now won't want to approach these subjects because people might laugh at them and think, "Oh, you're ridiculous. Are you still living in the Stone Ages? Are you still living in?" It's very difficult to navigate as a Muslim in this day and age, akhi, and to really keep on seeking the haqq. It's very, very difficult. Wallahi, it's very, very difficult. So I just, for those of you who listen to us and subscribe to this channel and love this content, it will be very easy for you to see falsehood from right, just because, alhamdulillah, this channel is promoting illuminated thoughts about Islam, no gray areas.
Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah that we talk about it. And that's one of the main reasons I come on this podcast and not other podcasts, whether I'm not invited or I've turned down invitations, whichever one, you know. But because we need to talk about certain things in the light of the kitab and the sunnah. The sunnah has plenty of information that explains what's in the Quran, or maybe some things that are not in the Quran explicitly. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted the Prophet ﷺ to talk about them in the sunnah for a reason. So you guys be very careful when people start talking about subjects that you're like, oh, even if I go back 10, 15, 20 years, nobody's really talking about these subjects. Be aware, why is this person all of a sudden why is he saying certain things? If you want to negate the sunnah, I mean, if there was one, like a half a hadith from somebody about the Dajjal or about Ya'juj and Ma'juj that are mentioned in the Quran, but people still don't believe it. So people use whatever mental thought process they want to either prove or negate what's in the Quran. Okay, Dajjal is not in the Quran. What about Ya'juj and Ma'juj? They're clearly in the Quran, right? So why do people still say, well, we don't believe they're human beings now, or they're zombies? What, akhi? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah.
So I want to now get into, inshallah ta'ala, the description of al-Masih al-Dajjal.
No.
And what are we supposed to look for? Because inside the descriptions itself is ayat for the mu'mineen, the believers, and what to refrain from. Barakallahu fikum.
The closest thing I could find for you guys to get a visual is to look up Shrek. Wallahi al-azim. Look up Shrek.
SubhanAllah.
But not in a green facet. The Dajjal is one of the hugest human beings as he was described. He's a huge human being, but he looks stubby. Like Shrek is a giant, but he doesn't look tall. He's bigger than everybody.
Stocky.
He's stocky. He has bulged legs, the Dajjal. And he has, one of his eyes looks like it's almost blind and the other one looks like it's sick. And he is actually light-skinned and closer to blonde hair. But subhanAllah, even as blonde hair, he has really, really coarse hair, which makes him look even uglier. Because light and blonde hair is supposed to be really thin normally, as people are used to. So Allah has put in many signs in him that he doesn't look appealing, let alone be a god. But people will still follow.
Yeah.
Okay? So these are kind of his features, his characteristics. The believers, Akhwani, for those who read Arabic or don't read Arabic, as long as you are a believer, you will see the word kafir on his forehead, or the Prophet ﷺ, he said, kaf, fa, ra. On his forehead, that every Muslim, whether they read or not read, will be able to see it. Every true Muslim that did not follow him, because many will. So that's kind of in general his description. He's huge. He's lighter skinned, more towards a blonde person. The Arabs use the word ahmar or fihi humra, meaning that he has kind of reddish.
Pale.
It doesn't mean that he is a redhead.
Yeah.
No, it means that he is more of a blonde, light skinned, European kind of texture. But then he has really coarse blonde hair.
I seen somewhere where it said like he had locks in his hair.
There could be. I didn't see that.
No.
I didn't see that. But it could be that when people read, that's why I said the Arabic translation in English sometimes, coarse hair,
Yeah.
fihi taja'id, is people think that it means maybe braids and so forth. But the way his hair looks is just, it could be like really super coarse and curly that it might look like that.
SubhanAllah.
And it could be the translation, Allah Ta'ala alam. But in Arabic, it's very clear that يعني شعره مجعد.
I just want to say one thing. I remember going to Colorado, and some of the trucks there of like the military or active or inactive military, they already had like kafir on their trucks.
Yeah.
So this is something they're proud of. It's not something that's like foreign. And so it made me think about this hadith where his forehead, there would be a kafir, kaf.
No.
And it's interesting. I just want to mention that point.
Yes.
So a part of some of his other characteristics about him, his facial, his skin color, anything else that we're missing?
He's huge,
Yes.
bulgy legs.
Okay. I think there's something. Is there something with his walk, the way he walks?
Yep.
Yeah.
Every bulge, people who have bulge or pigeon legs, is that what it's
Yes.
called?
Is that
They walk weird, and he's walking super fast
SubhanAllah.
all the time. So you can just imagine a big person and how if they had bulge legs or pigeon legs, how they would walk, and it looks funny.
SubhanAllah.
So Allah gave these characteristics for people to see as a proof
His
that
deficiency.
he cannot be a Rabb. He doesn't look correct. He has everything's flipped over on his head with him.
SubhanAllah.
You know, and if you guys look at, having that said, is if you look at the trend in the past 20 years at least, where you see the eye on the pyramid on the dollar bill, for instance, that's the Illuminati eye, but it's coming from the Dajjal, because they've been prepping people to, when you see this, it's not a shock to you, it's not a surprise, it's not
It's
weird.
like whatever.
All the cartoons, like the Monster Inc., you'll see how they always show the one-eyed monster. Celebrities are putting down like hair on their eyes. And you'll see them doing this type of sign. If you go back and you've been paying attention to this, you can look up Illuminati signs. You can look up the false, the Antichrist signs, and so forth, and you'll be shocked that a lot of the stuff that we've been accustomed to, or even having our kids watch, or cartoons, has a lot of this promotion to try to normalize the idea that this person who's going to call himself a Rabb, that people will follow, because they've been indoctrinated not to think at what he looks like is weird. He's going to be looked at as normal because your favorite character is the one-eyed monster and you love him. So when you get a real one-eyed monster, you instantly fall in love.
Yeah.
He is a real human being.
Good point.
And he does exist today, because one of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum had seen him with other people on an island, and he described him to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ brought him to the congregation, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, he said, tell them the story that I've been telling them. Have I not told you guys the story about the Dajjal? Have I not told you his characteristics and in what he looks like? And they actually spoke to the Dajjal at this one point, and he told them about some of the signs. He was asking them, because he was chained in a big Montessori, or a big place of worship, and so forth. So when they found him on this island, and there's more detail that you can read, the hadith is very lengthy, and he talks about how he asked them, did the prophet of the Ummiyin show up yet? The prophet of those who are illiterate. And that's what the Muhammad ﷺ is called. Nabiyul Ummiin. Fil Ummiyina Rasula. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in the Quran. So when he said this, he said, I came, he was a Christian, this person. He wasn't a Muslim.
Yes.
And he came and he became Muslim, and he told the Prophet ﷺ his story, because the other person said, the Dajjal, I should say, told him, you should go and seek Muhammad ﷺ that you might be saved. And when the time comes, I will be released when I get the permission to be released. Meaning when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to release him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of the his geographical location, I know we find out about places and people. There's a lot of YouTube videos and theories that come up, and some people say he's in the Bermuda Triangle. Give us the breakdown.
Wallahi, akhi, they saw him near Arabia, in one of the islands near Arabia. Okay, whether that island has been covered with water in our day and age, it's very possible.
Because they're looking for satellites.
Oh
now.
yeah, sure.
Some guy is out there.
Akhi, I think the Bermuda Triangle is pretty far from there, but only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows where he is. I don't care where he is. Okay? The Prophet ﷺ told us, if you hear about the Dajjal, don't go and confront him. Go and hide and stay as far as possible away from him, that the man who has the iman or thinks he has strong iman will go try to confront him, and then the Dajjal will do what? The Dajjal will cut him in half. Allah gave him power to raise the dead. He gave him the power to send down rain and have plants come out of the ground.
Yeah.
These are all fitnas. These are all fitnas. And then when this person comes to life, he believes him, and he accepts him as a Rabb. So Prophet ﷺ said, only one man will go and confront him, and he will tell him that I disbelieve in you and that you are the false Messiah, you are a Dajjal, you are a kadhab, you are a liar. And he will try to kill him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not allow him to kill him. Subhanallah. So, and that's only one man, and everybody else was told to stay away, flee. So there are small signs, علامات صغرى وعلامات كبرى للساعة. The scholars have said that it doesn't necessarily mean that all the علامات الصغرى have to manifest for the kubra to happen.
Okay.
So some of the sughra, some of the small ones, could happen after the kubra.
They may be ongoing, like perpetual.
And they're ongoing, or we might not see them until the real alamat al-kubra happen. But the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions the alamat al-sa'a, they're like a sibha, that once you cut it, they all come out one behind the other in a hurry. Perpetual, they just come out.
This is a good point. I don't mean to cut you off, because sometimes people, they're looking for all the signs to happen. It's like for them, it's like a sequence, and they all have to happen. And then if they don't happen, then the major signs will come. And so it's good to know that, because some of
that's why I mentioned it too. Yes. So some people are sitting here waiting for all the small signs to happen,
and then they'll change their life.
Then they'll be stuck when the sun comes out from the west, and they were not believing, or لم ينفعها إيمانها لم تجد في إيمانها خيرا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that there will be no help for those who had not believed or did not do good with their belief and their iman, meaning they did not practice when the end of time shows up.
There's one question I want to ask you about the hadith you mentioned. I don't know if you said that the man who will come to Dajjal, and you said he will try to kill him, he will kill him. Was it that he will kill him and then he'll bring them back to life, and then he won't be able to kill him a second time?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. The second time, because the first time it's an illusion.
Yes.
That's what people understand, that he has magicians and sorcerers and the shayateen, I should say, as if shayateen with him.
Yes.
And he will kill him. He will either split him in half and revive him, but he tries to do it again, and Allah does not allow him to kill him again. No.
Okay. So
there's a lot, like I said, there's dozens of ahadith, over 100. And you guys can always go back to them, and if I have a little discrepancy, it's because I don't know all the ahadith. So if I make a mistake, it's not purposeful. I might have flipped the hadith and put one in the story in one and the other. Inshallah ta'ala, we ask Allah for forgiveness.
Ameen.
But it's not deliberate. No.
Allah yahyeek. So now, how long will he be on the face of the earth once he comes out?
No.
And I'm going to add another one is when he comes out, will his claims like change? Will it evolve from saying like I'm a prophet or this, or will he just straight up say I'm God?
He's going to come out and say I'm God straight out. People are going to follow him because they're going to be ready. People already follow right now stars and magicians and TikTok influencers, if you want to call them that, as if they're a Rabb, akhi.
Subhanallah.
To the point where, this influencer becomes Muslim, other people become Muslim. This influencer becomes a kafir, they all become a kafir. People just follow influencers, let alone that Dajjal is going to come with many, many miracles. When I say miracles, they're signs. They're, heaven saying the heavens to rain, and it rains, killing somebody, they revive him from the dead. He's going to have 2 rivers follow him. And he's going to have a river of water, and he's going to have a river of fire. The fire is when he throws people in there because they disbelieve in him. It's actually they're going into Jannah, and they're going to a good place. And when he throws them into the water, what's apparent to people, they're going actually to hellfire, wal-'iyadhu billah, which appears to people. And it's a fitna. It's a very, very big fitna. And, and that's why the Prophet ﷺ told us that we should stay away from him, and we should teach each other and remind each other about the Dajjal. Because, look at akhi. For instance, I call America Jannatul Dajjal. Okay? And I heard this from someone, and I've taken it. اقتبستها من أحد الإخوة. And I use it now. This is the Jannah of Dajjal. This is where everything that displeases Allah appears to be great and dandy and fun. Everything, akhi. Even us as Muslims that are practicing, we eat too much, we drink too much, we enjoy too much. It's the Jannah of the Dajjal, akhi. And I'm not talking about those who do haram. That's a different story. This is the place that you want to do haram. This is the country where you're free to be anything. I just had a baby recently, and we got a passport for him because he needs to travel the world before he turns 1 year old. Mashallah. Yeah, of course. We always get passports because we never know when we're leaving. But what I'm the passport application had 3 genders on it: M, F, and X.
Subhanallah.
So up until 16, the parents can choose for their children what they want them to be. But after 16, your child can be an X. And that was pretty smart, so they don't have to do the whole alphabet on there. They just put X. So X is unknown. You can be whatever you want. So if you decide to be a monkey today, you can be a giraffe tomorrow. You can be a half male, half female. It can be they. You can be confused. You can be a kafir. You can be whatever you want. So X is the unknown. X is for unknown, especially if you look at equations. That's what X is, unknown. So on the passport now, you can be unknown. All right? But they need your name and social and everything. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, one of his days is like a year. And then one of the days is like a month. One of the days is like a week. And then the rest of the year, he will be here for 1 year.
SubhanAllah.
And the rest of the year, it's like our normal days.
So it will feel like those days. And so the Sahaba had a concern.
Yes. How do we pray?
نعم.
نعم. فالنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said, قدروا لها. قدروا للصلاة. Yani just kind of gauge it for that day that's going to feel like a year.
Yeah.
Just gauge it.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah. It's the end of times, ikhwan. There's going to be a lot of craziness. There's going to be a lot of craziness.
And so some of the fitan, let's talk about some of the fitan, because when he'll be here, it will be like the Prophet ﷺ, I think he mentioned in the hadith, that the people will walk past the people of the graves and say, well, they will wish to be from amongst the people of the graves. So when people hear like these end times, and they may hear like, there's going to be Mahdi and the people of the Mahdi, and they make dua like, I wish I could be from in that moment, in that time. And the Prophet ﷺ is saying otherwise. So talk about some of the fitan that will happen. So you mentioned already about the boy who comes. and I think there's something about an individual who his parents will be brought back. So explain to us about some of the fitan.
Yeah, the fitan, like we mentioned, for instance, that he will raise the dead. He will come to a man and he'll ask him, would you believe in me if your father came out of the grave? And who's coming out of the grave? A shaitan.
Shaitan.
If he shakli abi will come out in the face or the looks or the body of his father, and he will tell him to believe in him. He's a Lord. And people will leave their deen, whatever that deen is, and follow him. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. He will have trickles. You know, if you've ever watched cartoons like Aladdin or whatever, and you see that he has gold coins running behind him on a rug, and then people are chasing the gold.
Yeah.
The Dajjal, that's from the Dajjal. He's going to have just like a beehive, a beehive that's full of bees, but that's going to be gold following him. And that's why it's said that the majority of people who will follow the Dajjal will be women. Okay? And this is why relax. You don't have to be from amongst them, so relax. صح ولا لا?
No.
And we're telling you so you don't be from amongst them.
And that should be the aim.
And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, because every time now you speak against a woman, you can say something about Allah, but you can't talk about a woman. You can't say anything about a sister. You can't say anything about a female, whether she's confused or not. You just can't say anything, akhi. You can talk about Allah all you want. And people will just clap like, yeah, it's free country, it's free. You can't say anything about a woman anymore. The Prophet ﷺ was talking to the Sahabiyat. And he said, تصدقنا يا معشر النساء فإني رأيتكن أكثر أهل النار.
Subhanallah.
Give sadaqah, oh women. These are the women, the Sahabiyat. He's not talking about our women today. He's talking to the Sahabiyat. Give sadaqah that I've surely seen the majority of the dwellers of hellfire are of the women. This is normal. Why? Because the women, they chase every little song. يجرين أو يجرين وراء كل ناعق. That they chase every person who has a loud voice or has something that attracts their emotions. When you go to concerts, who's the majority of people at concerts? It's women. You go to wherever there's fun, you're going to find a lot of women. Okay? We're not talking about halal fun. Yes, of course, you're going to have your halal fun. So he's going to have gold, which attracts women. Fun, power. So a lot of women will be attracted. Of course, most of them are going to be kuffar, akhwani. I mean, you guys understand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. If you follow the majority of people on earth, they will lead you to displeasing Allah, or they will misguide you.
No.
They will take you away from the righteous path of Allah. So we are telling our sisters, dear sisters, تصدقن فإن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رأى كن أكثر أهل النار. We're telling our sisters to give sadaqah, that the Prophet ﷺ has seen you sisters, you women, are the majority of the dwellers of hellfire. And the Prophet ﷺ was talking to the Sahabiyat, وَنَحْنُ مِن بَابِ أَوْلَى, that we should be priority in this nasiha, in this reminder.
I'm saving ourselves.
Inshallah ta'ala. Like I said, the Dajjal will come. If people don't listen to him, he'll throw them in the hellfire, in the river of fire, and it looks like they're going to hellfire, but they're not.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of fitna.
Also, he will. What's the amount of the earth that he'll be able to traverse?
Yes.
And
absolutely.
where will he go?
MashaAllah.
Where will he be prevented from going?
The Dajjal will be able to go. That's why some of the ulama said the word al-Masih إنه يمسح الأرض. There will be no town, no nook and cranny, no place that the Dajjal will not go and have his show for people to follow him and to leave whatever deen they have.
SubhanAllah.
Even if they're on a fitrah, they didn't hear about Islam, for instance, and maybe they will have an excuse in front of Allah because they were min ahl al-fitrah, they've never had a deen, nobody's ever told them about anything, that they will follow the Dajjal.
SubhanAllah.
And he's going to go everywhere except for Mecca wal Medina.
Allah.
Nah. And he said that there are angels on the doors or the entryways of Medina with big swords that I am not able. He talks about it himself, the Dajjal. When this group of people, when Tamim al-Dari met him, when Tamim al-Dari met him before Islam, he told him, the only two places I'm not able to go is Mecca and Medina. And when he arrives to Medina, he makes thumping noises. And the people know that the Dajjal is here, and all of the kuffar and munafiqun, they leave the Medina to go and chase his power and his resources. And only the pure of the pure will remain in the Medina. And if that time comes, we ask Allah that we are of those who do not exit. Mecca wal Medina, Allahumma ameen ya Rabb. You children listening to me, don't forget this dua and be aware. Be aware where you need to be. And that's why we tell you guys, this country in general, in the West, most of the West, is not mentioned in prophecies, whether Christian prophecies or Muslim prophecies. These places will be gone or will not have no weight in all of what's going to happen at the end of time, all the wars, all the prevalence of Islam and protection of Muslims will be back where we're trying to send you. So if you go and you live there, for those of you who always ask, why do you want to send us back home? It's for the main reason, that when all heck breaks loose and the world comes to an end, you are possibly going to be in a place where you could be safe and safeguard your deen, whether it's Mecca or Medina, because most of the people that are there that are bad, or kuffar, all of them I should say, will leave. The only ones who will stay, and there'll always be room for true believers.
So how long will he stand, or how long will he be on earth once he is released, inshallah?
So the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions that he will be on earth for 40 days. 40 يوما. يوم كسنة ويوم كشهر ويوم كجمعة أو أسبوع وسائر أيامه كأيامكم. That Prophet ﷺ said he will be on earth for 40 days. One day will be equivalent of 1 year. The next day will be equivalent of a month, and the third day will be equivalent as a week, or of a week, and then the rest of the days are similar to your days that you count for. So the total comes out to about 1 year, 2 months and a half total of how long he will be on earth before Isa alayhi salam comes and kills him and puts him out of his misery, or puts him out of his misery, and for us, for himself and for us, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Now,
so what will be the hal of the world right before he encounters Isa alayhi salam, and where will the Muslims be, and so what's that looking like?
The world's going to be in chaos. SubhanAllah, something really big is going to stir and or happen at the end of times, because the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions that people will be on horses and they will have swords. So there'll be none of the modern warfare things. And I know people can't fathom that, but if you look at, there's a movie that came out a long time ago called The Book of Eli. I think Denzel Washington starred in that movie. I like to look at these movies if they have any kind of sense of the end of times or something. And it's a weird type of end of the world scenario.
Like apocalyptic.
Yes. But where the world is literally no machines, nothing. So it's either like the world got hit by a meteorite, or there was some kind of electromagnetic shock to the earth where nothing works anymore. There's a few cars or trucks in this movie, or whatever you want to call it. It's an old one. I don't know. It's maybe 20 years old or something. But the idea, even if you watch the trailer, I don't think you really need to see the movie. You'll get the gist of the trailer itself, because they show how all the cars are on the side and how everything doesn't work anymore and so forth. But the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions that human beings, they were going to be on horses, and there were going to be some of I know the names of these soldiers that will be fighting in the end of times, and their horses and their swords.
Their fathers' names.
In their fathers' names. Naam, ahsant. So it's going to be very chaotic. Imagine that the sun comes up one day from the west, and as a Muslim, you kind of know, like, oh, it's here.
Yeah. So it sounds like it will be war torn. Like there will be a massive
there's
war.
there's going to be huge wars, and everything like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, it's going to be happening in the Middle East. It's not going to be in Canada or Australia or New Zealand. None of that. It's all going to happen right there in the Middle East.
SubhanAllah.
You know, that's all that's going to be left. So it's going to be of a grave, dangerous magnitude
Catastrophe.
that many billions of people will be gone before the end of time happens. So in my opinion, I don't even need to say humble, because it ain't humble, it's just a guesstimate. You know, I'm not trying to prove anything, but my thoughts are that there will be something that does destruct the earth, and the few hundreds of thousands of people that are left, or a couple million, or Allahu A'lam how many, most people will be wiped off the face of the earth, for things to go back to horses and swords. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Allah ta'ala a'lam.
Naam.
Allahumma hafadna ya Rabb.
Ameen.
Naam.
And so, lastly, we want to conclude with what are some ways that the Muslim themselves can prepare? Because they hear these things, and some people get in the mode of like, everything's like a movie now. So everything is just like, well, I'm definitely gonna not, I'm gonna run away from him when he comes out, and so they're already like, believing that they'll be a part of that saved group of just like they'll be able to see, and Allah will give them tawfiq to run away. So I'm gonna live my life right now because I heard those ahadith and I know what to do when the time comes, XYZ. Just
like the person that's gonna remember the 3 questions in the grave, and they never pray. Whoever is going to have tawfiq, whether their qiyamah happens tomorrow, next week, next month, before the end of time, I believe all of you listening to me now, we're bringing this as a warning. I don't think the end of times for us is going to happen in our lifetime, but Allah is capable. I'm just looking at how things are looking, because there's going to be many years where many signs will happen before the real, like the nitty gritty end of time, but things could happen so fast. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows.
We've seen COVID.
And I'm not saying this to give you like, hey, it's not going to happen in our lifetime. You could jump into a car and die by an accident tomorrow, have cancer. You could die tomorrow, and your qiyamah will happen. Okay? Your fitna will happen. So prepare for your death, because subhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the smart and wise person is the one who prepares himself for death and is not hopeful in just the mercy of Allah without doing any deeds. وَيَتَمَنَّ عَلَى اللَّهِ الْأَمَانِي. That they're saying, Allah Ghafur Rahim. Who Allah doesn't want to punish us. How do you know? Did you read the Quran and you caught that out of the Quran? Is there a hadith? Do you have a special ticket from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that says that you're going to be safeguarded? Akhi, all of the ahadith, and we've mentioned this, and it's always mentioned over and over and over and over by Ahlus Sunnah, that al-imanu qawlun wa amal. That iman is qawlun wa amal. I would love to prevent you from TikTok, which is the Dajjal of our times. And there's a lot of small Dajjals running around. A lot. In the millions, akhi. Those who are leading you astray are all Dajjalin or Dajjalun. They're all liars. They're all people who are leading you away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dear sister, when we tell you not to be on social media, do I even know you? Am I going to get a satisfaction that you're not on there? And I'm going to, puff my chest and say, yeah, she followed. Akhi, I don't even know who you are. You could die tomorrow, and I'm not going to be at your funeral because I don't know you. I don't know you. So what I'm trying to tell you is not to take away your freedoms. Is for you not to say, those guys, those bearded people, those strict people, whatever you want to call us, never told us. I've never heard this. I heard Ya'juj and Ma'juj were zombies, like in the movie. What is that called? Dead something? The Walking Dead. Yeah, and it's fun, and you're going to have a gun, and you're going to be shooting the zombies. That's what you think. Ya'juj and Ma'juj will eat everything in their way, and they would kill everybody in their way, and to the point that the beginning of the army will drink an entire lake of water, and those who come at the end will say, we knew there was a lake here at one point. That's how numerous they will be, how dangerous, how ruthless they will be. They will get to the point that Ya'juj and Ma'juj will start aiming arrows, and that's why I'm telling you again, things are coming back to the end of times. Everything talks about arrows, swords, horses walking on their feet. There's no Hummers, there's no X missiles, there's none of this stuff. It's all gonna go back where تتساوى القوى رجل لرجل. That all the strengths will be equal.
Man to
Show
man.
me how good you can fight and what you have to offer as a man to man. And your first world problems will go away. I guarantee you, nobody talked about women being men and men being women, because all that will be gone. All that nonsense will be gone. And people will understand what it means to have a man in your life, a protector. And you as a man will start to learn that you need to man up. Okay? So we're telling you to do these things that are naturally going to occur when you don't have first world problems.
SubhanAllah.
Right now we're so spoiled that we say, I've done everything. Let me just go change my gender. Because that's fun. That's cool. SubhanAllah. So we're telling you, sisters, if we're saying don't be on social media, and those who are and can be and should be on social media are very far and few in between that can do it, safeguarding their deen, their haya, and pleasing Allah, are very rare.
Allahumma ja'alna min.
They're very, very rare, especially the sisters. Because the sisters are emotional and they live for the comments. I don't care how strong you are, if you had a channel or anything of the sort and somebody started riding you and writing things to you, you'll have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
What did you do? You just brought fitna of everybody into your house.
SubhanAllah.
You might be in your house thinking you're protected, but you're out there on a video, you're laughing, you're smiling, you're having fun, you think you're teaching, whatever the case may be. It is so safe for your deen to stay away from social media as much as possible. As much as possible. Because the more channels you have and more access to social media, the more chances you have somebody sliding into your DMs and giving you fitna or being a fitna. Allah will test you.
Yes.
And please don't say أنا إيماني قوي وأنا ما شاء الله وأنا بقيم الليل. Those are the people that Allah will test with craziness like this. Don't لا تكل نفسك إلى نفسك.
SubhanAllah.
Okay? Don't put yourselves in your own hands. Put yourselves in the protection of Allah. And always ask Allah to protect you and to guide you, so you don't fall into these pitfalls. And we ask Allah to protect all of us, inshallah ta'ala.
Have you seen anything from the ulama in terms of the people who reject these ahadith? And are they from Ahl Sunnah? What do we consider them? And the second group are those who make ta'wil of the ahadith, and they say, well, and these signs, for example, they'll say like, well, Dajjal means TV. I believe in there's a Dajjal, but it means TV. It means like the satellite. It means like all these things that are coming into our homes, and it doesn't mean an actual person. So you have one group that's saying, there's no way this person exists. There's not even a system like this, XYZ. Then there's a second group that make the interpretations of these. They don't necessarily reject them, but they make interpretations. And so how would we view these individuals?
How did you come to the conclusion that the Dajjal is the TV? Based on what hadith or what text? What's the text that you used to come to this conclusion? How did you even know that Dajjal is true? Okay, so if you reject these ahadith, why are they true? If they're not true, how can you say it's the TV? So when I say Allah's talking about fitna and that fitna could be TV, but the word fitna comes from the Quran. I can say the TV is a fitna because it is. I can say the internet's a, but I can't say it's a portrait. I can't say it's Mona Lisa without any dalil.
That's a good point.
So the people who are saying that Dajjal doesn't exist, or Ya'juj and Ma'juj are zombies, okay? What's your dalil, akhi?
Subhanallah.
كيف تؤول والنص موجود. How can you interpret and the nas is there? It's not a half a nas, it's not marfu', النص قوي ومتواتر. We have hundreds of people saying, okay, when the Prophet ﷺ said that the Messiah, Dajjal, is going to be killed by Isa, he explicitly says, Isa alayhi salam سيكسر الصليب ويقتل الخنزير. That Isa alayhi salam will break the cross. Because the Christians, you guys, everywhere they go, they have a problem with the cross being everywhere. It's like in your face. They have this disease. It's a disease. They put it everywhere, akhi. Look on everything, you'll start to see crosses. See it like under all their flags, especially the Scandinavian countries. All the flags have crosses on them. And people put the cross right here on their heart, akhi. And when you tell them, they tell me it's a plus sign. Just like the Red Cross is a plus sign. It's called the Red Cross. Akhi, it's called the Red Cross. It's a plus sign. They put it everywhere. Look at like a lot of the windows. They put the shapes of like a clover leaf.
Soccer.
That's a salib.
No.
Like on your chest piece, everywhere you go, they have this infatuation with the cross being somewhere. Subhanallah. And a lot of times we put it on our kids. So what I'm trying to say is, akhi, what's your dalil to say that Dajjal doesn't exist? Okay, it's not in the Quran. You reject the hadith. Where did you come with the word Dajjal? How can you say Dajjal equals TV, akhi? And how did the people that before you came believe that Dajjal was somebody before the TV was here?
Yeah,
so 150 years ago, before television, what did all those Muslims believe? What did they believe it was? They had to believe it was something.
Yeah.
It's none of the fitnas we see today. Internet, TV, social media, that everybody's talking about, these stars, these movie stars, these idols, American idols, all these idols that we have didn't exist 150 years ago, where people worshiped them or looked at them or could say that this is the Dajjal. This is the Dajjal. You have there's not even a single hadith about the Dajjal that's just open for interpretation for somebody to say he or it's a TV.
SubhanAllah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you have a text that is open for interpretation for you to call it the Dajjal, bring it. قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. But then if you have that nas, where did you get it from?
Yeah. Where's the scholarship?
Let's say you got it and it's authentic. Why did you take this hadith authentic and you left the muhkam? هذا مجمل. So you believe in mujmal, but you don't believe in muhkam. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
So even if you come with a text that says, oh, the Dajjal is a TV, for instance, or could be interpreted in TV, why do you believe in that text and you don't believe in the other 100 hadith that all of them are authentic in Sahih Muslim? So everywhere you look at it, akhi, is stick to the text and you will be safeguarded from fitna. If you try to interpret and try to come up with something that nobody's ever heard of. Like when we were studying Al-Azhar, akhi, we had some of the doctors, professors that were teaching us. They're like, yeah, if you go, why does everybody go to the Kutub al-Sihah? Because they're called the Sihah. That's why people go to them. Yeah. But no, there's a lot of ahadith in this book that people never heard of. And people will listen to you if you bring something different. And this is a fitna, akhi. Okay, you might be a student of knowledge or you might be a professor of Deen, and you can look at this hadith and say, هذا يقوى بذلك الحديث, that I can strengthen it with the other 5 hadiths. But this hadith here is weak. So why do you leave the other authentic hadiths and you bring the weak hadith so you sound, wow, extravagant? Wallahi, I heard this with my own ears. Nobody told me this story. So I'm telling you, that's what people are doing. They're always digging for somebody who said something in a corner or made a mistake. يلتمسون الزلقات العلماء وهفوات العلماء. That's what they're saying. And somebody will say, the big scholar from that country, I'm not going to mention names, inshallah, said this. I athaddek, and you read his information in Arabic and you even understood it. Because if you speak really good English, most of those scholars, you can't even understand their writing. You have to be, English has to be your 3rd language, and Arabic is your 1st to understand. Like for instance, Ibn Ashur, rahimahullah, he's a Tunisian scholar. Okay? They don't teach his tafsir in Al-Azhar or in any institution, Islamic institution, unless you have a master's degree in master's program or PhD. That's how advanced
his Arabic is. So if you're a mufti and you study 2 years in Queens or wherever it is, or online, and you have a certificate signed by somebody who should be in jail, I don't think you have the depth of the Arabic language to understand Ibn Ashur, for instance. When I read it, I need to get interpretation. And I've been living in a Muslim country all my life and studying for 20 years.
SubhanAllah.
Just like the Quran, when people read the Quran and they think this is the interpretation. Go look at all of the... Akhi, right now, many of you are probably on that As-Suhba Tayyiba. I'm doing that
Yes,
kitab,
naam.
the kitab of Al-Adab Al-Mufrad. I look at the hadith, akhi, and I have a translated version from sunnah.com. I always have to make my own translation. A lot of times the translation is wrong, it's verbatim, it's out of context. But if I don't know what it is, I could, and that's almost every time I do a hadith, it has to have something wrong with it. Unless it's so clear that my 3-year-old can understand it. If it gets to a level where it's just a little bit, the words have different meanings, but you took the first Google translation, you probably got it wrong. So let alone trying to understand Tafsir Ibn Ashur, you're probably going to have problems unless you have depth of the Arabic language and understand it, and you have to understand the context as well. So a lot of times people, they say, oh, the alim fulani, oh, in the Quran. You ever get people that say, in the Quran it says this? No, it doesn't. Allah did not mean that. The Arab did not understand. Like when we get Christians, and we need to conclude, inshallah. Like when we get Christians, that fight about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He married a girl who was 9 years old, Aisha radiallahu anha, for instance. You have to understand, you are looking at it from a secular, kuffar, modern world lens. Because if this was a aib, for the past 1400 years, those who speak Arabic and lived in Arabia would have used it against Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam if it was wrong. In his time, it was normal. All of the Christian kings had kids that they married at that age. That was normal for the era. But people don't want to look, they always look at the lens that they live in. She's my daughter. Your daughter can't even feed herself. If you got lost, she would commit suicide because nobody can feed her. A 9-year-old in Arabia, it can run a family, akhi. She knows how to go and take the barley and how to make food, and she can make it from scratch, from zero, from the land, and cook it for people. Your daughter doesn't even know what barley is. She's never ever seen it. See, there's a huge contrast. There's a huge difference. So we have to put things in context when we're talking about the ulama. And please be very careful. أَلَّا تُقَوِّلَ أَحَدًا شَيْئًا لَمْ يَقُلْ. Be very careful that you don't say somebody said something that they've never said, or they mean something they've never meant.
The ulama, they would say, refrain from the shadi opinions. And there's
always.
There's always going to be
always.
some
السلامة في اتباع الجماعة.
No.
السلامة في اتباع الجماعة. I can't believe that people believe there's angels, there's malaika, but they don't want to believe there's a Dajjal or there's يأجوج ومأجوج because they can't see them. The malaika are all around us. نسأل الله أن نكون هذا المجلس ممن حفته الملائكة. قولوا آمين. So we don't see them. That means they don't exist. So we have to be more pragmatic. We have to be more common sense and logic.
Yeah. They believed in COVID. They never seen that. All this other stuff.
They believe in everything. Don't people believe that Michelle Obama was a man? And don't people believe that Joe Biden is an alien? And don't they believe that Hillary Clinton is an alien too, from alien descent, or is from a different planet? People believe a lot of crazy things. And to top the cake, people believe that the earth is flat. And they look at every other kawkab, what's that? Every planet that's a sphere. Every planet is a sphere except for Earth is a flat one. It's a saucer. Akhi, there's just no common sense. And of course the government's keeping it the North Pole closed off so we don't fall off. Because we need those people. We're trying to get rid of idiots. So if anybody wants to fall off, ya Allah, please help them go. Let them fall off. There's more idiots in the world that we can shake a stick at. So we need some of them to fall off.
What are some closing reminders or advice you would give for the people to prepare themselves always, be prepared, and don't wait for, you know, these sort of events to happen, because you may not ever see it.
No. You want to be in the know, but I'm more afraid of YouTube than is the Dajjal right now. I'm telling you, I'm more afraid of you watching TikTok for 2 hours without realizing you've been watching it for 2 hours, and you see a lot of nonsense that's helping your subconscious take you astray. You're going to hear somebody say something on social media that you're going to find so compelling that you will leave Islam. Maybe the Dajjal is going to be so apparent right now that you're like, oh, okay, I see that he doesn't look like Arab to me, مثلا. But and when you start following this path of all these little Dajjals, these little things that are liars and fitnas and sorcerers and magicians, and if you have to look at your signs, you know, what does your sign say today, your horoscope, you're probably closer to following the Dajjal. But these are the things that you're going to take with you to the qabr, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask us about. Fix what's between you and Allah. We all need to repair what's between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't hate you. I don't know who you are. I'm not here to deprive you from your freedoms. I'm not here to give you ideologies that are going to, you know, if you never watched social media and you've never been on YouTube and you never used YouTube, never watched TV, and you never left your house, you never got an education, and you never got a job as a female, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guaranteed is not going to blame you for not doing those things. Allah is not going to blame you. And you know deep inside that you will be closer to Allah if you were actually staying home. I'm not telling you not to do some of those things I mentioned. I'm just giving you a very extreme situation to where we leave the things that Allah is going to ask us about, and we follow the things that Allah will not ask us about if we do not do them.
Yes.
But we end up doing them, then we fall into the haram. And that's why we have a lot of mischief. For you, dear sisters, you know, we are trying to give you nasiha because the rest of the world's telling you, go girl, go do whatever you got to do. Go do whatever you have to do, right? Two versions of the Gasta, and you have to go out there and do it, make it happen, go girl power. Now all the superheroes are females. It's just crazy. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. So we're telling you for the sake of Allah, because we love Muslims for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet ﷺ told us, and the scholars from behind us, to warn people from the Dajjal. And the things that the Dajjal is doing, we are seeing in our day-to-day lives today, that we should be careful and be prepared, inshallah ta'ala. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to safeguard us from the Dajjal.
Ameen.
And shayateen al-ins wal-jinn.
Ameen.
Allahumma ameen. And Allah subhanahu, and the Prophet ﷺ, he told us, ta'awwadu min arba'. Every time that we are praying, for those of us who pray, in the tashahhud we say, Allahumma na'udhu bika min al-mahya wal-mamat wa fitnat al-masih al-dajjal. صح ولا لا?
Yes. No.
So we always mention the fitnas, and we always ask Allah to safeguard us from the Masih al-Dajjal in every salat. For those who are provoking this ideology, Allah, the Prophet ﷺ taught us في التشهد أن نتعوذ من المسيح الدجال.
No. Inshallah. Any other questions you would have for the Sheikh? We'll probably have a Q&A session coming up, inshallah. Put it in the comment, like, share this video, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us and you steadfast. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.